Close your eyes now. The world outside is fading. Feel the soft blankets around you, letting your body become heavy and still. We are not just going to sleep. We are journeying into the deep past, back to the moment humanity first looked up at the stars and wondered. This is a quiet, secret place in time, where the very first stories were whispered, not into the air, but into stone. Picture the hidden force that moved people long ago to gather in the darkness and carve their deepest feelings. Tonight we drift into the hidden energy that started all of our beliefs. We begin where organized thought began, in the shadow of ancient, silent stone. Let the sound of my voice be your gentle guide as you float away from today and settle into the profound history of yesterday. The silence of Göbekli Tepe, pillar worship under ancient stars. We start our journey at a silent place in Turkey, a hill called Göbekli Tepe. This temple is older than farming, older than writing, older than pottery itself. Imagine a time when people did not live in houses, but moved from place to place, following the great herds. Yet they stopped here over 12,000 years ago to build something huge and beautiful. They dug deep circles into the earth and set up giant T-shaped stone pillars. These stones are smooth and strong, like gentle giants standing guard over the world's deepest secret. It is almost too quiet here, the quiet of the very beginning. We are looking at the foundation of human faith. This place tells us that first, people gathered to worship, and only then did they learn to farm and settle down near their sacred spaces. The oldest building on earth is not a house but a temple. The history of this hill is strange and wonderful. For thousands of years, people met here, perhaps once every year, to work on this sacred hill. They carved animals onto the stone pillars, foxes, snakes, boars, and birds, all looking alive and alert in the dim light. Then, after using a circle of stones for a while, they did something truly mysterious. They did not leave it or let it fall down. They carefully buried it on purpose. They covered the entire temple circle with tons of dirt and rock, like putting a sleeping child to bed. Then, they built a brand new, slightly smaller temple right next to the buried one. This happened many times, creating layers of forgotten history, sleeping beneath the hill for all those long years until we found them again. What did these giant, silent pillars mean to the first humans? The two tallest pillars in the center of each circle seem to be like people. They have arms, belts, and even simple hands carved into their sides. They do not have faces, though. They stand facing each other, looking at nothing but the quiet center of the circle. Maybe they are ancestors, or perhaps they are the very first gods or spirits of nature given a strong stone body. Maybe the whole circle was like a roofless house for the sky, helping them talk to the stars. The pillars create a deep, slow rhythm in the darkness, a feeling of safety and ancient knowledge that helps our minds rest tonight. The silence here is a very old, protective silence. This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about history. For a long time, historians believed that people had to invent farming first, which gave them extra food and time, and then they built temples and cities. But Göbekli Tepe shows the opposite. The need to meet, to pray, to be together in a sacred space came first. It was the wish to serve the silent gods of the stone pillars that made people stay in one place and eventually start growing crops. The human heart's need for meaning is perhaps the oldest force in all of history. We are not just looking at old stones. We are seeing the first dream that humans ever had of something bigger than themselves. This massive effort shows us that even the very first people had a rich inner life, full of wonder and respect for the world around them. The carvings of the animals suggest they felt a strong connection to the natural world and the creatures they hunted. It was not just a place for sacrifice. It was a gathering place for shared stories, songs, and ceremonies that lasted many days. The temple was their meeting house, their concert hall, and their silent place of learning. The sheer size of the stones, moved without wheels or strong metal tools, shows a deep commitment. Just as we use our soft pillows now for our own needed rest, they used these hard stones to hold their biggest, most important ideas. The mystery of why they buried the temples is the greatest part of the story. It was not a violent end, but a choice to put the sacred space to sleep, sealing its power and energy beneath the ground. This deliberate burial preserved the site for us today, like a message in a bottle sent across 12,000 years. This decision to quietly cover the past allows us to make a connection with the deep stillness of this ancient place. We now share the air where the first human prayers touched the sky. Tonight, let us also bury our worries gently, just as the first builders buried their temples, to find rest. This peaceful stone circle is a quiet promise that even in the darkest night, humans always seek light and meaning. The simple, heavy shape of the T-pillars offers a final, grounding image for your mind to hold. They stand tall, they stand together, and they stand silent, helping you feel protected and calm. They waited for you for thousands of years. Now you can rest in their ancient protective shadow. The Neolithic home, hearth magic in the quiet of Skara Brae. Tonight, we travel far north to the Orkney Islands off the coast of Scotland. We are visiting a place called Skara Brae, a village that was covered by sand for thousands of years, keeping it perfectly safe. This is not a grand temple of stone pillars, but a temple of the home, a silent, cozy space of Neolithic life. The stone houses here are built right into the earth, designed to keep the terrible wind and cold out. Imagine the thick walls and the quiet darkness inside each house, warmed only by a small central hearth. These homes are tiny, perfect stone circles, and in a way, they show us that the first temple was the place where people slept, ate, and found safety. The ancient feeling of security here is deep and total. The history of Skara Brae is peaceful and mysterious. The people who lived here around 5,000 years ago were advanced, even though they lived simply. They carved beautiful little objects and kept their homes very clean. Inside each house you can still see all the stone furniture they made. There are stone beds, stone cupboards, and even stone dressers. Everything is solid and still, a testament to a life lived close to the earth and the sea. The gentle sounds of the ancient ocean are muffled by the thick stone walls, making the houses a quiet escape from the noise of the world. They lived this quiet, organized life for hundreds of years before they too decided to leave their homes suddenly and silently. In the center of every home is a square, stone hearth, and this was the most sacred spot. It was the source of warmth, the place for cooking, and the only light source in the long, dark nights. The fire in the hearth was the heart of the home, and keeping it lit was a sacred duty. This hearth fire, the source of life, was their quiet altar. They performed small daily rituals here, offering parts of their food, perhaps saying quiet words of thanks before sleeping. The magic of Skara Brae is the magic of the ordinary day, transformed into a spiritual practice. This simple, centered warmth is an anchor for your own resting thoughts now. What the stone furniture shows us is a life of deep order. These people had a fixed place for everything. The stone dressers held their personal treasures, maybe small carved pieces or special stones found on the beach. Even their waste was managed carefully outside the village walls. This order suggests a peaceful society where everyone knew their place and their duty. They did not need massive temples to find God. They found the sacred in the careful, quiet routine of making a home safe. The small closed-off bedrooms suggest a focus on rest and privacy, a deep respect for sleep that we can share tonight. This site offers a beautiful connection to the idea that the spiritual journey does not need to be a large, public event. The rituals here were small, personal, and constant, centered on the things that keep life going: food, warmth, and safe shelter. Just as the builders of Göbekli Tepe worked to connect with the heavens, the people of Skara Brae worked to make their little patch of earth sacred. Their stone beds were perhaps the most important items of furniture, places of rest and dreaming. The mystery remains. Why did they leave so quickly, covering the doorways with sand and abandoning their homes almost as if they were going to return the next day? Perhaps a massive, sudden storm, or maybe the resources of the land simply gave out. But their sudden, quiet departure left behind a village frozen in time, perfectly preserved as a silent memorial to the sacred life lived indoors. The stone walls, covered in earth, give us a final feeling of being deeply protected and enclosed, a warm tomb for your deepest rest. The silence of Skara Brae, tucked beneath the sandy dunes, is a powerful invitation to listen to the quiet power of your own home. The simple, gentle arrangement of the stone furniture and the dark, thick walls create a total sense of peace. Rest easy, feeling the same ancient safety that these first homemakers created for themselves. The henge and the solstice secrets, Stonehenge's gentle giants. We float now over the wide, flat Salisbury Plain in England, moving toward the world's most famous stone circle, Stonehenge. The stones are so huge and old they feel like gentle giants standing guard over the land, watching every year pass by. They were placed here, stone by heavy stone, around 4,500 years ago. This place is not a house for people or a building with a roof. It is a giant, precise calendar built for the sky. It is all about the sun and the moon and the quiet, steady passing of time. The feeling here is one of slow, massive effort and deep dedication to the heavens. The stones themselves seem to breathe a gentle silence, waiting for the special moments of the year. The history of Stonehenge is a story told in two colors of stone. The largest stones, called sarsen stones, came from far away, over 20 miles. The smaller special stones, called blue stones, came all the way from Wales, over 150 miles away. Imagine the thousands of people moving these massive rocks without modern machines, pulling them slowly, carefully across the land. Why this long, hard journey for certain stones? They must have had a sacred meaning, a special power that the builders deeply needed for their ritual space. Every piece of this monument speaks of profound respect and the silent, shared work of an entire community. This great heavy effort is now still a monument to an ancient, sleeping devotion. The main meaning of Stonehenge is found when you stand in the very center and look out. The whole circle is perfectly lined up with the movements of the sun, especially during the longest day of the year, the summer solstice. On that morning, the sun rises and hits the center of the circle right over the special heel stone outside the main ring. This alignment was not an accident, it was the entire purpose. It let the ancient people know exactly when the seasons would change, when to plant, and when to harvest. It was their sacred clock, telling them the perfect time for their silent ceremonies and thanksgivings. The precise relationship between stone and star brings a comforting sense of order to your thoughts tonight. What Stonehenge shows us is that our ancient ancestors were not simple or primitive. They were highly smart observers of the sky. They used only their eyes, their knowledge of stone, and their powerful math skills to create a perfect map of the heavens on earth. They were scientists and priests all at once. The silent moments when the sun lined up with the stones must have been moments of great power and unity for the people who gathered there. They all stood together, watching the light arrive, knowing that the sun was truly a gift from the cosmos. This shared knowledge is a soft connection to all of humanity who have ever looked up in wonder. The gentle giants of the sarsen stones, with their heavy tops perfectly balanced, remind us of the strength and peace we can find when we feel connected to the universe. We can make a connection between the hard, cold stone and the warm, bright light of the sun that they tracked. The builders used the longest journey possible to bring the blue stones from Wales, perhaps because they believed the stones had healing powers. Just as they sought healing and comfort from the stones, we can now seek quiet rest in the history of their purpose. This monument is truly a place of ancient rest, created to celebrate the end of the year's long work. It is a quiet reminder that after the busy cycle of the seasons, the sun always returns and the world finds its balance again. Stonehenge is still standing, watching over the plain in silence. Feel the power of the stones and the calm rhythm of the ancient world surrounding you now, guiding you toward a deep and peaceful sleep. Malta's Hypogeum dream, sleeping with the oracles of the underworld, Tonight, we go deep beneath the island of Malta, into a hidden place called the Hypogeum, or underground. This is a quiet, echoing maze of rooms carved entirely out of solid rock, going 3 levels down. It is not just a tomb, but a silent temple where perhaps the priests and priestesses went to sleep and received special dreams or messages from the underworld. Imagine the sound of nothing at all, a deep, cool silence that the modern world can never truly touch. Everything here is smooth, carved over thousands of years to perfectly copy the shapes of the temples above ground. The dark, embracing earth holds this sanctuary tight. The history of this site, built over 5,000 years ago, is deeply tied to the idea of a mother goddess and the cycle of life and death. Many thousands of people were buried here, making it a sacred resting place for the entire community. The carving is so perfect that the stone looks almost soft, like clay, even though it is hard rock. On the middle level, there is a special room called the Oracle Chamber. If you speak in a low, deep voice inside this room, the sound travels all over the Hypogeum, seeming to whisper from the walls themselves. This strange acoustic effect was used to make the words of the oracle seem like they came from the very earth. The true meaning of the Hypogeum is its power to separate you from the noisy world. It is a place of total darkness and total quiet, perfect for deep meditation and dreaming. When the priests went down to sleep, they were hoping to talk to the spirits of the dead or to receive guidance for the living community. The deep sleep that happened here was a sacred act, a way to cross the border between worlds. The earth itself became the protector of these dreams, holding the sleepers safely until they woke with their special messages. The cool, heavy air of the Hypogeum is a gentle weight to rest under tonight. What this hidden temple shows us is how much our ancestors valued dreams and the silent inner world. They built a magnificent secret space just for deep contemplation. There are special small niches carved into the walls that are only the size of a sleeping body. These were perhaps where the oracles lay down, listening to the echoing whispers of the earth. The energy of this place is calm and incredibly old, teaching us that sometimes the quietest knowledge comes from going deep inside ourselves, far from the light. We can make a connection between the long, dark journey down into the Hypogeum and our own nightly journey into sleep. Just as the ancient people felt safe resting deep in the earth's belly, we can find comfort knowing that the world is still and quiet around us. The beautiful spiral patterns carved onto the walls and ceilings are the same patterns found in nature and in dreams. They suggest a gentle, never-ending cycle, offering a visual sense of peace and continuity. The fact that the builders carefully copied the temples on the surface, but underground, is a message of deep respect for both the visible world and the invisible one. The Hypogeum is a final, quiet cradle for the mind, a place where all of history, all of the ancestors, are silently resting together. Let the deep, cool silence of the Hypogeum surround you now, creating a protective layer of quiet around your thoughts. This ancient, safe embrace is waiting to carry you into the profound quiet of sleep. Newgrange and the Winter's Light, the Irish Passage Tombs. Our journey continues to Ireland, to the Boyne Valley, where a huge round mound of earth and stone called Newgrange has rested for over 5,200 years. This building is older than Stonehenge and the pyramids of Egypt. It looks like a giant grassy hill, but hidden inside is a long stone passage that leads to a central high chamber. This is a very special kind of temple, built for the dead but also built for the sun. The care and effort put into this massive tomb show us how important it was to guide their ancestors into a good, final resting place. The sheer weight of the mound is a heavy, comforting blanket over the world's history. The history of Newgrange is one of profound astronomical knowledge. The entire passage tomb is aligned so perfectly that only once a year, on the morning of the winter solstice, a thin beam of light can travel down the long passage. This beam of sun, which is only strong enough for 17 minutes, fills the deep, dark central chamber with a golden, hopeful glow. The entrance is covered by a beautifully carved, huge stone, and above the doorway, there is a small, careful opening called the roof box. This little slit is what lets the light find its way in after its long yearly journey across the sky. The deep meaning of this light show is all about hope, renewal, and the promise that life always returns after the dark. For the people who built Newgrange, the death of winter was a scary time. The sun getting weaker meant less warmth and food. When that tiny sliver of light pierced the darkness of the central tomb, it was proof that the sun had returned, that the darkest day was over, and that spring would come again. This light was a comforting presence for the dead and a promise for the living. The quiet, long waiting for the light to arrive is a powerful meditation for the mind. What Newgrange shows us is the deep spiritual comfort that comes from knowing the natural world's rhythm. The builders spent decades creating this perfect instrument, a stone machine to capture hope. The spiral and zigzag carvings on the stones are all symbols of continuity and the never-ending cycle of life. They tell us that nothing is truly an ending, only a quiet resting period before a new beginning. We are not just looking at a tomb. We are looking at a temple of deep, quiet faith in the future. We can make a peaceful connection between the stillness of the central chamber, waiting for the light, and our own quiet minds waiting for rest. The stones hold a great secret, that the darkness is a necessary part of the cycle. Just as the ancestors waited in the dark, knowing the light would eventually find them, we can surrender to the quiet, trusting that the dawn will always follow the night. The builders' massive effort and perfect math bring a sense of secure, ancient order to our thoughts. The greatest part of this story is the sheer, quiet confidence of the ancient people. They were so sure of the sun's return that they built a huge, permanent monument just to celebrate 17 minutes of light. Newgrange is the quiet assurance that after the longest, darkest night, the light will always gently find the way in. Let the thought of that slow-moving golden beam in the dark chamber fill your mind with peace and carry you off to sleep. Ziggurats of Ur and the gods of the sky. The first mud brick mountains. We leave the cold stone circles of Europe and journey to the warm, dusty land of ancient Mesopotamia between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, the first great cities were built, and in their centers rose the ziggurats. Think of a ziggurat as a massive mountain built from mud bricks, stacked in perfect giant steps reaching toward the sky. The most famous is the ziggurat of Ur, built for the moon god, Nana. These were not temples for people to gather inside. They were pedestals, high resting places for the god to meet the priest alone. The ziggurat is a massive, heavy feeling of connection between the earth and the deep, silent stars above. The history of the ziggurat is tied to the constant effort of keeping the gods happy. The people of Ur believed that by building this mountain of brick, they were making a safe, high home for Nana. They believed the god could easily come down from the heavens and rest on the top platform. To get there, you had to climb 3 very long, steep staircases that seemed to go on forever. This slow, difficult climb was a ritual in itself, showing how much people needed the gods. The base is huge and heavy, while the top is light and close to the sky, a perfect symbol for your tired mind resting tonight. The deep meaning of the ziggurat is the concept of a bridge. It was the only way for the earthly king to reach the gods and bring their powerful blessings back to the city. Only the king and the highest priests could make the climb, leaving the thousands of ordinary people to watch and worship from the quiet safety of the ground below. The ziggurat was a symbol of order and power, showing the city's place in the universe. It was also a massive, solid storage area for the city's wealth, making it the most important and most protected place in the whole land. What this mud brick mountain shows us is the first grand dream of building a permanent, powerful connection to the cosmos. While Göbekli Tepe was built by a small community, the ziggurat required the work and faith of tens of thousands of people across a large, settled city. It shows a powerful, organized government where faith and state were one thing. Every single brick was made by hand, dried in the sun, and laid in silent devotion. This massive, slow, steady work is a comforting rhythm to follow into sleep. We can make a connection between the ziggurat and the smooth, gentle process of building a calm mind. Each step, each terrace, is a slow ascent toward peace. Just as the ancient people felt safe knowing the moon god had a resting place, we can find comfort in the solid square base of the ziggurat, a powerful foundation that cannot be moved. The massive structure is still standing today, a testament to the long, deep history of human faith. The final feeling of the ziggurat is its silence and scale. It is a structure meant to be seen from far away, a beacon of faith on the flat plain. Its quiet, heavy presence reminds us that stability and deep-rooted belief are the oldest forces in the world. Let the vast, silent height of the ziggurat of Ur become your mountain of rest tonight, standing firm beneath the moon god's watchful gaze. Eridu's deep waters, the temple of Enki, and the Abzu. Tonight we visit Eridu, often called the first city in the world, long before Ur or Babylon. This place is special because it was built on dry, dusty land, but its god was the water god, Enki. The temple of Enki was built right over the spot where the people believed the deep, sweet, life-giving water, called the Abzu, came up from beneath the earth. This temple was a promise of coolness and life in a very hot world. It shows us how sacred water was to the first city dwellers. The sounds here are quiet and gentle, the imaginary flow of sweet water beneath the earth. The history of Enki's temple is one of continuous rebuilding. For thousands of years, the people kept building a new, larger temple on the exact same spot where the old one stood, almost like a growing sacred tree. They needed to keep the connection to the Abzu strong and constant. In the very first temples, only a small mud brick room, there was a small offering table where people would leave fish bones and small tokens. This simple, unbroken tradition, building one temple right on top of another over 5,000 years, shows the deep, stable nature of their belief. The meaning of the temple was not just about water, but about wisdom and creation. Enki was the god who brought all the clever arts of life to humanity, including the knowledge of how to build cities and use tools. The temple was a silent learning center, a place to remember that all life and all knowledge comes from a deep, unseen source. The temple itself was a container for the most important ideas of civilization, making the city possible. It was the place where the very first dreams of a settled life took root and grew. What Eridu shows us is the sacred power of an unbroken tradition. Even when the people changed and the building styles became grander, the location, the sacred spot where the water met the earth, never changed. This constancy brings a great sense of peace. It reminds us that no matter how much the surface world changes, the deep essential things that give us life, like water, knowledge, and rest, always come from the same quiet source beneath. We can make a connection between the temple of Enki and the calm, steady feeling of deep rest washing over us. The Abzu, the sweet water beneath the temple, is like the hidden, peaceful reservoir of our mind when we sleep. Just as the people of Eridu trusted the water to rise and sustain them, we can trust our bodies to find their necessary rest. The temple's long history of peaceful repetition is a soft, mental anchor. This is a story about the oldest foundation of life, water and knowledge. The Temple of Enki is a final reminder that even in the driest, most challenging times, there is always a secret, deep spring of resource waiting for us. Let the thought of the silent, sweet Abzu beneath the sands carry you off to a quiet, deep, and refreshing sleep. Karnak's quiet grandeur, the hypostyle hall in moon shadow, we now travel to ancient Egypt, to the massive Karnak Temple, the largest religious building ever made. We are going to walk through the hypostyle hall, a huge indoor forest of towering stone columns. There are 134 of these columns, so thick and tall that they block out the sun. They make you feel incredibly small and safe beneath their huge, silent weight. This hall was built for the god Amun-Ra, the king of the gods, and it was the silent center of the Egyptian universe for over 2,000 years. The feeling here is one of heavy, protected silence in vast, unending time. The history of Karnak is a story of slow, endless building. Every single pharaoh wanted to add their own piece to the temple, making it bigger and more magnificent than before. The hypostyle hall was meant to look like the watery swamp of creation, where the world first began. The columns are carved with hieroglyphs and decorated with bright colors, which are now faded, leaving only the beautiful gray stone. The sheer number of columns meant that people could easily get lost in the shadows, making it a powerful place for silent, personal wandering and devotion away from the crowds. The deepest meaning of the hall is about the journey into the secret heart of the world. As you walk through the columns, they get shorter and shorter, and the floor slowly rises, taking you from the noisy outside world into a profound, inner quiet. The central columns are the tallest, and they had special openings at the top that let in a thin stream of sunlight, a focused beam that pierced the darkness like a single quiet thought. This light was a perfect symbol of Amun-Ra's presence, touching the darkness with a gentle glow. What the hypostyle hall shows us is the Egyptian idea of order and permanence. They believed their faith and their kingdom would last forever. So they built a structure that seems to defy time itself. The heavy, stable columns have stood through all of history, giving us a powerful, unchanging image to rest with. Just as the columns hold up the roof of the great temple, they hold up the idea of a stable universe, allowing your mind to let go of any worries about the future or the past. We can make a connection between this forest of stone and the peaceful, repeating rhythms of our own breathing. The endless rows of columns suggest a perfect, unending pattern, a rhythm that the ancient people found comforting. Just as they felt the quiet power of Amun-Ra moving through the shadows, we can feel the silent, steady power of our body settling down for rest. The heavy columns are strong protectors of our sleep. The vast grandeur of Karnak is now a silent place where only the wind moves through the massive stones. This great, beautiful, empty space is a final invitation to rest in the shadow of giants. Let the slow, deep movement through the hypostyle hall fill your mind with a deep, protected peace, carrying you to the safety of sleep. Abu Simbel's relocation, the echo of Ramesses and the Nile's hum. Tonight we visit a breathtaking temple carved right into a mountain rock face in southern Egypt, the great temple of Abu Simbel. This temple was built by Pharaoh Ramesses II and features 4 colossal seated statues of himself carved outside. This is a temple that shouts about human power, but inside it holds a deep, quiet secret. This massive complex had to be cut into hundreds of giant pieces and moved to higher ground in the 1960s to save it from the rising waters of the Nile River. The knowledge that this huge temple was moved piece by piece adds a modern wonder to its ancient, heavy silence. The history of Abu Simbel is defined by its astronomical precision. Ramesses II designed the temple so perfectly that on only 2 days a year, around February and October, the sun's first light would travel through the long, dark tunnel. This golden light would then illuminate 4 statues in the final sanctuary, Ramesses himself and the gods he worshipped. The light would intentionally not touch the statue of the god of darkness, Ta, leaving him always in the shadows. This event was a profound statement of power over time and darkness. The deepest meaning of this light show is the pharaoh's connection to the sun and the hope for rebirth. By being bathed in the sun's light twice a year, Ramesses was ensuring his own connection to the powerful cycle of life, death, and renewal. The long, straight tunnel that guides the light is a perfect path for your mind to follow into the deep, inner chamber of rest. The temple's purpose was to create a perfect, unchanging moment of divine connection in the dark. What Abu Simbel shows us is the deep human desire to control time and to achieve permanence. The statues carved into the mountain are meant to last forever, watching over the river. The astonishing effort to save the temple in modern times, cutting it apart and rebuilding it perfectly, shows that this quest for permanence is something we still share today. The quiet hum of the ancient Nile River, which first inspired the temple, is a soft, steady sound that can help guide you to sleep. We can make a connection between the temple's 2 annual moments of light and the simple, daily comfort of sunrise. Just as the Egyptians waited in the dark for the sun to come and touch the statues, we can wait quietly in the night, trusting in the inevitable, gentle return of the morning. The massive scale of the statues and the solidity of the carved mountain rock bring a total sense of protective strength and stability to your thoughts. The final image of Abu Simbel is the beautiful, silent path of light piercing the dark stone. This path guides us to the deepest, most quiet sanctuary. Let the image of Ramesses the Saint resting forever in the golden light carry you to a profound, deep, and protected rest. Marduk's Esagila and the Tower of Babel, the Whispering of Babylon. We journey now to the greatest city of the ancient world, Babylon. We look for the famous Esagila Temple, dedicated to the city's chief god, Marduk. Next to it stood Edamananki, the enormous ziggurat that people later called the Tower of Babel. Babylon was a city of noise, crowds, and commerce, but the temple complex was its quiet, beating heart. The size of the temple and the tower was meant to show the whole world the power of the Babylonian gods and king. The ground here is now silent and dusty, holding the quiet echo of a magnificent lost civilization. The history of the Esagila temple complex is tied to the New Year's festival. Every spring, the most important ritual in Babylon was the great procession of Marduk's statue, which began in the temple and traveled through the city. This festival was believed to renew the whole world, ensuring the floods came and the crops grew. The priests had a sacred duty to climb the huge Tower of Babel ziggurat right next to the temple. This tower was likely over 300 feet tall, a massive terraced structure meant to be a staircase for Marduk to walk down from the heavens. The deep meaning of this complex was the idea of stability and renewal. The temple ensured the cycle of the seasons, and the tower ensured the connection to the gods. When we imagine the great size of the Tower of Babel, we are feeling the powerful, shared ambition of an entire city to reach for the sacred. The story of the tower's destruction and the confusion of languages is a final quiet lesson in humility and the need for simple, shared understanding. What the ruins of Babylon show us is how even the grandest, strongest, and loudest empires can eventually fall silent. Today, only the foundation of the enormous temple and ziggurat remains. This ruin teaches us that the only true permanence is the quiet earth itself. We are listening to the silence that follows great noise, a deep, restful silence that swallows all of history's great moments. We can make a connection between the ambition of the great tower and the importance of finding peace right where we are. We don't need to climb high to find what is sacred. The quiet of our own heart is the true sanctuary. The simple, solid foundation of the Esagila temple resting on the earth gives us a final, grounding image to hold. This foundation has watched everything come and go. The final whisper of Babylon is a gentle paradox. This was the place of the greatest human noise and confusion, yet now it offers the deepest, most profound quiet. Let the gentle wind moving through the ancient forgotten walls of Marduk's silent temple guide your mind to complete rest. The Beehive, tomb's dark, walled heart, Mycenae's treasury of Atreus. We now travel to the sun-drenched hills of Mycenae in Greece, but we are going deep beneath the earth to enter a massive circular tomb called the Treasury of Atreus. It is not a temple for a god, but a temple for a great king, built around 3,300 years ago. The tomb looks like a giant beehive, with walls of massive, heavy stones slowly drawing in toward the center. This type of tomb is called a tholos, a dome built entirely out of stone without any mortar. This building is a powerful symbol of deep respect for the ancestors. The air inside is still cool and completely quiet. The history of this tomb is tied to the Mycenaean kings, who were famous warriors and heroes. The structure starts with a long, unroofed stone passage called the dromos that leads to the large, round chamber. The most incredible part is the huge stone lintel, the single beam over the doorway, which is one of the largest stones ever used in a ceiling. The perfect high dome of the chamber was built stone by stone, with each row resting on the one below it, creating a perfect circle of silent strength. The deepest meaning of the treasury of Atreus is the power of the hero after death. The Mycenaeans believed that their great kings needed a massive, permanent home where they could rest and still influence the world of the living. The perfect dark circle of the dome created a quiet, contained space for their spirit to reside. It is a place of total enclosure, designed to hold power and memory safe from the passing years. The heavy protective weight of the earth above the dome is a deep comfort for your mind now. What this beehive tomb shows us is the deep human need to make our ancestors eternal. The engineering needed to build this dome without it crashing down was incredibly advanced. It required perfect math, perfect planning, and thousands of hours of quiet, careful work. The silent perfection of the dome is a lasting testament to the builder's skill and their deep respect for the power of the spirit world. We can make a connection between the long, straight passage leading to the tomb and the quiet, single path our mind follows into deep sleep. Just as the ancient people walked that path to honor the departed, we walk away from our daily worries to find rest. The solid, unmoving structure of the tomb provides a feeling of absolute security and unchanging peace. The final feeling of the treasury of Atreus is the silence of its huge, perfect dome. It is a monument to quiet power and absolute rest. Let the cool, constant temperature and the profound, dark silence of the stone dome fill your mind, guiding you gently into a deep, safe sleep. The Oracle and the Sacred Smoke. Delphi's mountain stillness. We travel high up to the mountains of Greece, to the sanctuary of Apollo at Delphi. This place was considered by the ancient Greeks to be the omphalos, or the belly button, the very center of the world. It is built high up the steep side of Mount Parnassus, making it a place of profound stillness and quiet, broken only by the sound of the mountain wind. People from all over the ancient world traveled here on long, silent journeys to ask one single question of the Oracle of Delphi. The sacred energy of this remote place is a peaceful anchor for the mind. The history of Delphi is a story of slow, powerful influence. It was a pan-Hellenic site, meaning all the different Greek cities, even when they were fighting each other, respected the silence of this sacred place. The oracle, called the Pythia, was a priestess who sat over a fissure in the earth. The ancient people believed that sacred, intoxicating gas or smoke rose from this crack, which helped the Pythia enter a deep, trance-like state to receive messages from the god Apollo. This place was the spiritual meeting house of the Greek world for over 1,000 years. The deepest meaning of Delphi is the importance of seeking wise answers in a troubled world. The long journey to the mountain, the quiet waiting, and the careful listening to the Pythia's mysterious words were all part of the ritual. The mountain itself demanded quiet respect, slowing down the thoughts of the visitors and preparing them to listen to the deep wisdom of the earth. The remote stillness of the sanctuary creates a total sense of separation from daily worry. What Delphi shows us is the power of quiet contemplation. The simple act of traveling far away, high up, and in silence changed the state of mind of the person seeking answers. It teaches us that sometimes the only way to hear a truly important answer is to leave the noise behind and wait for the quiet voice of intuition. The sun shines brightly here, but the air is always cool and still, creating a perfect balance of light and rest. We can make a connection between the Pythia's deep, dreamlike trance and our own nightly surrender to sleep. Just as she let her conscious mind rest to connect with a deeper truth, we can let our worries go to find restorative peace. The sacred silence of the mountain is a powerful presence, guiding your mind to a high, clear, and quiet place of rest. The final feeling of Delphi is the vast, open space and the deep quiet of the mountain air. It is a place of final great decisions and profound soft surrender. Let the ancient energy of Mount Parnassus hold you safe and still as you drift into a peaceful sleep, knowing that all your questions can wait until the morning. Hidden rites and the promise of the afterlife. The Eleusinian Mysteries. Tonight we visit a place called Eleusis near Athens, which was home to the most important and most secret religious rites of the ancient Greek world. The Eleusinian Mysteries. This was not a temple that celebrated a god in the daylight. It was a sanctuary of the night, promising a better life after death. Everyone, from the poorest farmer to the greatest emperor, wanted to be initiated, to share in the secret, hopeful knowledge of the afterlife. The most important building was the telesterion, a massive dark hall built specifically for the final secret ceremony. The history of the mysteries is tied to the myth of the goddess Demeter, who searched for her daughter, Persephone, who was taken to the underworld. The ritual was performed every year in the darkness of the telesterion, acting out this search and the final reunion. The ceremonies were kept perfectly secret for nearly 2,000 years, and no one who went through them ever wrote down what they saw or heard. The punishment for revealing the secret was death. This total shared silence over 2 millennia is one of the most powerful secrets in all of history. The deepest meaning of the mysteries was the idea of hope and quiet certainty about what happens after we die. For the ancient Greeks, the afterlife was often a dull, gray, shadowy place, but the mysteries promised the initiated a bright, peaceful, and happy existence. This promise gave people immense comfort and peace in their daily lives. The darkness of the telesterion was a necessary stage before the final, beautiful, and silent revelation of light. What the secrecy of Eleusis shows us is the powerful, shared trust of a whole civilization. The thousands of people who knew the secret kept it for the common good, so that the power of the promise would not be broken. This unity of silence is incredibly comforting. It tells us that sometimes the most profound and valuable knowledge is not shouted out but held quietly, deep inside the heart. We can make a connection between the final, beautiful light shown to the initiated in the telesterion and the feeling of waking up refreshed after a deep sleep. Sleep is our own nightly mystery, a small death that promises a perfect, bright rebirth in the morning. The massive hall of the telesterion, now empty and silent, is a powerful container for your mind to hold all of your quiet hopes. The final feeling of Eleusis is the perfect, beautiful, and silent certainty of the promise. The mysteries are over, but their message of quiet hope remains. Let the thought of that peaceful, eternal light carry you gently through the darkness and into a profound, restorative sleep. Knossos and the Labyrinth's Embrace, the Minoan Palace Shrine. Tonight, we take a ship to the island of Crete, home of the ancient Minoan civilization and the vast palace of Knossos. This place was not just a home for the king, it was the heart of the Minoan religion, a sacred center where the king may have also acted as the chief priest. It is famous for its confusing, winding hallways, which led to the myth of the Minotaur's labyrinth. The true spiritual centers were small, open-air courtyards and tiny, colorful shrines built deep inside the palace walls. This is a story of faith found in the open air and hidden corners. The history of Knossos is a story of color and life. Unlike the dark temples of Egypt, the Minoan palace was full of bright, beautiful paintings showing scenes of people and nature. The religion was centered on nature, the sea, the bull, and the Earth Mother goddess. Instead of building huge temples, they built small, simple shrines inside the palace or on high mountains. The most famous ritual, the bull leaping ceremony, was held in the large central courtyard, a public act of both danger and deep spiritual connection to the sacred animal. The deepest meaning of the palace shrines is that the sacred life was blended perfectly with the daily life. There was no clear line between the king's home, the market, and the place of worship. The small shrines were quiet corners for private devotion, little rooms with small statues, double axes, and beautiful painted cups. This integration shows a faith that was easy, natural, and always present. The quiet hum of the palace life, the small sounds of work and celebration, provides a gentle backdrop for your rest. What the Labyrinth of Knossos shows us is the complexity of early organization. The confusing paths were just the nature of a very large, growing structure, but they became a powerful symbol of the journey into the unknown. They teach us that sometimes finding the quiet, sacred center requires us to be willing to get a little lost first. The discovery of these small shrines shows that the most powerful beliefs are often held in the smallest, most personal spaces. We can make a connection between the winding paths of the labyrinth and the complex thoughts that can keep us awake at night. Just as the Minoans found their quiet shrines within the confusing palace, we can find the quiet center of our mind within the complexity of our thoughts. The bright, peaceful colors of the ancient Minoan paintings bring a soft visual calm to your mental landscape. The final feeling of Knossos is the bright, warm feeling of the sun and the quiet rhythm of the sea. The palace is a reminder that faith can be found in the beauty of the world around us, not just in the dark, heavy temples. Let the warmth of the Cretan sun and the gentle sea breeze carry you into a profound, peaceful sleep. Zeus's sanctuary. Before the games began, Olympia's first flame. We travel now to the sanctuary of Zeus at Olympia, a place that was quiet and profoundly sacred long before it became famous for the Olympic Games. This was the most important sanctuary in all of Greece, a holy ground where a massive gold and ivory statue of Zeus stood in silent judgment. The feeling here is one of peaceful, deep devotion and the quiet expectation of the sacred moment. Even the wars in Greece stopped so that everyone could travel safely to this holy ground. The simple, solid weight of the ancient Doric columns, now fallen, lies quiet on the ground. The history of Olympia is about the simple, powerful act of lighting a flame. In the earliest days, the focus was not on the athletic events, but on the deep worship of Zeus. The games were just one part of a larger religious festival. The most important moment was the lighting of the sacred flame, which burned constantly on the altar of Zeus. This fire was a promise of purity, peace, and the presence of the god. The quiet, long, and safe journey to Olympia was a powerful ritual of unity for the entire Greek world. The deepest meaning of Olympia is the idea that peace and devotion must come first. The sacred truce, the ekikaria, meant that all fighting stopped for the games, allowing everyone to travel safely across the world. This shows that the ancient people believed their shared faith was more important than their local battles. The immense sanctuary, full of treasuries built by different cities, was a silent testament to this shared, peaceful respect. What the ruins of Olympia show us is the gentle power of a shared tradition that lasts through the ages. The quiet, organized space of the sanctuary, with its temples, treasuries, and altars, was built for silent personal prayer before the loud public events of the games began. This teaches us that the greatest actions and public gatherings must always begin with a moment of quiet, inner preparation and focus. We can make a connection between the constant, quiet burning of the sacred flame and the steady, gentle energy of our deepest sleep. Just as the fire was the constant, warm heart of the sanctuary, our rest is the necessary, steady foundation for our waking lives. The peaceful, sunny fields of Olympia offer a wide, open, and calm space for your mind to drift. The final image of Olympia is the quiet, ancient earth, holding the broken but dignified remains of the great temple. This place of ancient gathering is now completely still. Let the gentle warmth of the sacred, long-extinguished flame and the profound stillness of the sacred ground carry you to a deep and peaceful rest. Mohenjo-Daro and the water ritual. The Indus Valley's Great Bath. We travel to the Indus Valley, to the great city of Mohenjo-Daro, built over 4,500 years ago. This city was advanced, planned with perfect straight streets and a great drainage system. The most mysterious and important building here is not a temple for a god, but a massive public swimming pool, perfectly built with waterproof brick. It is called the Great Bath. This building shows us that, for this ancient civilization, the most sacred act was likely the ritual washing and cleaning of the body. The quiet, constant sound of clean water filling and draining is the key to this peaceful place. The history of the Great Bath is a history of deep community order. The bath is perfectly rectangular, with steps leading down to the water on two sides. It was surrounded by small, quiet rooms that may have been changing rooms or smaller private baths. The water came from a well and was constantly drained out through a perfect system, ensuring the water was always fresh and pure. The fact that the city built such a grand and central building just for washing shows a profound belief in the spiritual power of water and cleanliness. The deepest meaning of the Great Bath is the idea of spiritual purification. Before any important event, People likely came here to quietly wash away the dirt and worry of the outside world, making themselves clean for the gods or the community. The simple act of immersing oneself in cool, clean water is a physical act that brings peace to the mind. The silent, peaceful surface of the water reflects the deep, quiet focus needed for true cleansing. What the Great Bath shows us is the power of quiet, public ritual that everyone could share. The people of the Indus Valley had no massive statues or grand temples like the Egyptians, but they had this perfect, quiet space for community purification. This teaches us that the sacred can be found in the simplest, most necessary acts of daily life, like bathing and staying clean. The perfect, stable walls of the bath provide a secure, strong feeling of rest. We can make a connection between the cool, clean water of the Great Bath and the refreshing feeling of deep, restorative sleep. Just as the water washed away the day's dirt and fatigue, sleep washes away the mind's clutter. The perfect, unchanging shape of the bath is an anchor for your thoughts, a symbol of order and peace that has lasted for thousands of years. The final feeling of Mohenjo-daro is the gentle, ancient sound of water. The Great Bath is a beautiful reminder that purification is simple and gentle, never loud or difficult. Let the image of the still, clean water of the Great Bath fill your mind with quiet peace and carry you to a deep, refreshing rest. Painted dreams and the quiet life of the monks, the Ajanta Caves. We travel now to the deep, horseshoe-shaped cliffs of western India, to the silent, rock-cut caves of Ajanta. These are not temples built from the ground up, but 30 quiet, dark halls carved directly into the solid rock by Buddhist monks. These caves served as silent, peaceful monasteries for over 800 years, starting 2,200 years ago. The most amazing thing about them is the colorful, complex paintings that cover the walls, telling stories of the Buddha's life and past lives. The sheer silence inside the rock is a deep, protective shield against the outside world. The history of the Ajanta Caves is a story of profound devotion and patient, quiet work. The monks lived and meditated here, cutting the rock with simple tools and then spending years painting the walls in the dim, natural light that came from the entrance. The paintings show beautiful, serene faces and gentle scenes of court life and nature, all designed to inspire peace and kindness. The art was a form of silent prayer and a way to teach the simple principles of the Buddhist faith to the people who came to visit. The deepest meaning of the caves is the quiet, constant commitment to inner peace. The monks chose to leave the busy world and live a simple, ordered, and silent life inside the rock. The cave walls, thick and solid, kept out all noise and distraction, creating a perfect environment for deep meditation and rest. When we imagine the monks sitting quietly in the dark halls, focused only on their breath, we feel the same peaceful, focused calm entering our own minds. What the Ajanta Caves show us is that true sanctuary is a mental state. The monks literally carved their peaceful world out of the mountain. The paintings teach us that life is full of beautiful stories, but we must be quiet and focused to truly see them. The dark, cool quiet of the cave is the best possible place for the mind to finally let go and rest. We can make a connection between the enduring, serene faces painted on the walls and the peaceful expression we seek in our deepest sleep. Just as the paintings have survived in the darkness for thousands of years, our inner peace is protected when we turn away from the noise. The cave is a profound anchor of stability cut into the permanent body of the earth. The final feeling of Ajanta is the quiet focus of the monks. The silent, cool rock halls, filled with beautiful sleeping images, provide a perfect place for your mind to settle down. Let the image of a serene, meditating monk in the deep, dark cave carry you to a state of profound, protected rest. Sanchi and the relics under the dome. The first stupa. We journey to central India to visit the great stupa at Sanchi, the oldest stone structure in India, built 2,300 years ago by the Emperor Ashoka. A stupa is a massive, solid dome built over the sacred relics of the Buddha or his followers. It is not a building you can enter, it is a monument to walk around, a powerful symbol of the Buddha's final peaceful rest. The circular shape is meant to represent the universe, a perfect, endless cycle of life and peace. The very sight of the calm, perfect dome brings a sense of deep, complete order to the mind. The history of the Great Stupa is a story of quiet, focused movement. The most important ritual is the pradakshina, which means walking slowly and quietly around the stupa in a circle, always keeping the sacred dome on your right side. This slow, mindful walking is a form of moving meditation, allowing the mind to let go of its scattered thoughts and find a steady, gentle rhythm. The four massive, beautifully carved gates, called toranas, face the four directions, showing scenes from the Buddha's life and inviting people to enter the sacred space. The deepest meaning of the stupa is the attainment of nirvana, the final, perfect peace that the Buddha achieved. The dome's shape is a symbol of the Buddha seated in meditation. By slowly and quietly walking around the stupa, people feel a connection to that final, peaceful state. The heavy, stable dome, which contains the most sacred items, acts as a profound anchor for the earth, bringing stability and quiet permanence to the spiritual world. What the stupa shows us is the power of silent, simple symbols. The structure itself, without doors or rooms, forces people to focus on the circular motion, the rhythm, and the profound quiet of their own mind. It teaches us that the greatest truth does not need complicated explanations or loud ceremonies. It is found in the simple, repeated act of seeking peace. The stability of the solid dome is a comforting, immovable structure for your thoughts tonight. We can make a connection between the slow, steady walking around the stupa and the slow, steady rhythm of our breathing as we fall asleep. Each step, each breath, is a gentle repetition that quietens the mind. The silent, smooth curve of the dome is a perfect visual image of quiet perfection, a constant that never changes. The final feeling of Sanchi is the peace of the silent, vast dome. This structure is a massive, heavy promise of final rest and eternal calm. Let the image of the perfect, peaceful dome and the slow, quiet walking around it guide your mind into a deep, protected sleep. The silent city and the river's flow. Angkor Wat's hidden passages. We now travel to Cambodia, to the colossal temple complex of Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument in the world. It was built in the 12th century, first as a Hindu temple for the god Vishnu, and later as a Buddhist temple. It is a perfect, beautiful city of stone, surrounded by a massive water-filled moat. The entire complex is a physical map of the Hindu cosmos, designed to be a quiet home for the gods on earth. The vast size of the temple is so big that it creates its own deep, profound silence within its stone walls. The history of Angkor Wat is one of cosmic ambition. The entire temple is aligned to the sunrise, especially at the equinoxes, just like Stonehenge. The long walkway across the moat and into the temple is a symbolic bridge from the world of people to the world of the gods. The walls are covered in thousands of relief carvings, telling the great, epic stories of the Hindu gods and kings. Walking through its long, quiet, roofed passages, called colonnades, is a journey into a deep, unending story. The deepest meaning of Angkor Wat is the idea of balance and reflection. The massive moat surrounding the temple is a symbol of the ocean of creation, and it perfectly reflects the towering temple. This reflection suggests that the spiritual world and the earthly world are mirror images of each other. The quiet, constant presence of the water in the moat brings a profound sense of stillness and calm to the entire area. What Angkor Wat shows us is the deep spiritual connection between architecture and the cosmos. The builders took the most complex ideas of their universe and translated them perfectly into stone. The long, repeating rhythm of the colonnades and the quiet, massive size of the inner sanctuary create a total sense of peace and order. It teaches us that when we build our lives with focus and intention, we can create our own peaceful sanctuary. We can make a connection between the still, reflecting water of the moat and the peaceful, reflective state of our mind before sleep. Just as the temple stands perfectly still in the reflection, we can find perfect stillness in our thoughts. The long, silent stone passages are a perfect path for your mind to follow away from the day's noise. The final feeling of Angkor Wat is the quiet stillness of the entire stone city. This massive, silent monument is now sleeping, covered by the jungle and surrounded by calm water. Let the quiet rhythm of the vast, still moat and the immense, silent stone walls carry you to a deep, protected rest. Ascending the cosmic mountain, Borobudur's bell-shaped silence. We journeyed to the island of Java in Indonesia to visit Borobudur, the largest Buddhist temple in the world. It is built like a massive, stepped pyramid or a mountain, symbolizing the journey to spiritual enlightenment. It has 9 levels, 6 square levels at the base and 3 circular levels at the top. This temple is a quiet, continuous guide for the mind, taking you slowly and safely up toward the final, perfect peace. The feeling here is one of slow, steady ascent and deep, total quiet. The history of Borobudur is a physical teaching. As you slowly walk up the square levels, the walls are covered in nearly 2,700 relief panels, telling the entire story of the Buddha's life and the path to wisdom. This quiet, visual reading of the story is the purpose of the journey. Once you reach the top 3 circular levels, the walls disappear and the space opens up to the sky. These levels are covered with 72 small, bell-shaped stone structures called stupas, each containing a single silent statue of the Buddha. The deepest meaning of the temple is the journey from the world of desire, the square base, to the world of pure form, the circular top. The highest level is the perfect largest stupa, which is empty, symbolizing the final, perfect silence of nirvana. The slow, circular walking up the terraces forces the mind to focus and find a calm, steady rhythm. The change from the crowded stories on the walls to the open sky and the silent, bell-shaped stupas is a beautiful release of all thought. What Borobudur shows us is that the path to peace is always a slow, steady climb. The massive, solid structure of the temple has been quietly resting on this hill for over 1,200 years. It teaches us that the greatest truths are found not by running, but by slowing down and walking with focus. The perfect, simple geometry of the bell-shaped stupas creates a total sense of final, quiet order. We can make a connection between the slow, mindful journey up the temple and the quiet, slow descent into deep sleep. Just as the pilgrims climb to the empty stupa, we aim for the empty, restful space of an unburdened mind. The massive size and quiet presence of this stone mountain is a perfect, solid anchor for your thoughts. The final feeling of Borobudur is the open, peaceful sky at the top. The silent, bell-shaped stupas stand like quiet guardians over the world below, holding the final, perfect peace. Let the image of this quiet ascent and the vast, open space at the top of the cosmic mountain guide you into a profound, protected rest. Breathe deep now. As you settle further into the quiet of the night, know that there are many more secrets waiting to be whispered from the deep past. If these slow, historical journeys bring you peace, consider subscribing to History for the Tired when you wake. Please, no need to move now. Simply drift off, knowing that more peaceful history awaits you whenever you need it. The Jaguar and the Sacred Sound. Chavin de Huantar's Labyrinths. We now cross the ocean to the Andes Mountains in Peru, to a ceremonial center called Chavin de Huantar, built over 3,000 years ago. This temple is famous for its confusing, dark stone tunnels that run deep beneath the ground. The religious art here is centered on the fearsome but protective images of the jaguar and the caiman. The purpose of these dark passages was to create a powerful, silent, and scary experience for the pilgrim seeking wisdom. The deep silence of the earth is only broken by the imagined sound of ancient music. The history of Chavin is tied to the use of sound and sensation. Inside the dark, winding tunnels, the priests would blow into ancient conch shells, called pututus, creating a loud, echoing roar that seemed to come from the stone walls themselves. The pilgrims would enter the dark, perhaps after taking special herbs, and walk through the maze, listening to the roaring sound that was meant to be the voice of the god. The whole temple was a silent machine designed to change the state of the mind and guide it to a moment of deep spiritual realization. The deepest meaning of the temple is the connection between the inner world and the outer world, symbolized by the animal spirits. The powerful jaguar, the animal of the night and the underworld, was the chief god. The journey through the dark tunnels was a symbolic death and rebirth, leaving the old self behind and emerging with new, quiet wisdom. The deliberate darkness and isolation in the maze forced the mind to let go of sight and focus only on the sound and the feelings in the body. What Chavin de Huantar shows us is that quietness is not always soft. Sometimes it is the profound, heavy silence that allows one single, powerful sound to become the voice of truth. The silent, smooth stones of the tunnels were the constant backdrop to a dramatic spiritual experience. This teaches us that even the scariest parts of our minds can lead to deep, quiet knowledge if we surrender to the process. We can make a connection between the silent, dark journey through the Chavin tunnels and the silent, dark journey into deep sleep. Just as the pilgrims trusted the priests to guide them through the maze to a higher truth, we trust the night to guide us to a deeper, more restorative rest. The solid, heavy stone walls of the underground passages bring a powerful feeling of protection. The final feeling of Chavin de Huantar is the deep, dark, protective silence of the Andean earth. The temple has waited quietly for thousands of years, holding its ancient, secret power. Let the image of the silent, thick stone tunnels and the gentle echo of a long-ago conch shell guide you into a state of profound, protected rest. The City of Gods in Dust, Teotihuacan's Pyramid of the Sun. We travel now to the vast, quiet plain of Mexico, to the giant city of Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, built 2,000 years ago. Its two colossal structures, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, are so huge they seem to rise naturally out of the earth. The most profound mystery is that we do not know who built this city or what language they spoke. We only know the city's power. The largest structure, the Pyramid of the Sun, is a massive, stepped monument built on a scale that forces silent respect. The history of the Pyramid of the Sun is a story of astronomical alignment and constant sun worship. The pyramid is perfectly aligned to the sunset on a specific day twice a year, guiding the sun's shadow down the Avenue of the Dead. It was not a tomb, but a massive altar for ceremonies and processions. The pyramid was built in one massive, constant effort, not slowly added to over time, showing a unified, profound, and single belief in the power of the sun. The ancient, dry dust of the plateau is now still and quiet. The deepest meaning of this pyramid is the immense power of an entire civilization dedicated to a single, celestial goal. The sheer size of the pyramid is a quiet testament to their faith in the cosmos and its rhythmic order. At the base, archaeologists found a cave that leads to a chamber directly under the center of the pyramid. This deep, dark, secret cave may have been the most sacred spot of all, symbolizing the deep, dark origin of the universe. What the Pyramid of the Sun shows us is that the greatest things can be built for completely unknown purposes. The people who lived in this city left no written records of their language or the name of the god for whom they built the pyramid. This vast, silent absence of knowledge is a powerful reminder that sometimes the best rest comes from accepting what we do not know and letting the mystery be. We can make a connection between the long, straight Avenue of the Dead, which connects the two pyramids, and the straight, quiet path to deep sleep. The massive, stable shape of the Pyramid of the Sun is a perfect anchor for your mind, a symbol of permanence that has stood silently for 2 millennia. The final feeling of Teotihuacan is the quiet echo of a lost, silent, and immensely powerful people. The massive, immovable pyramids stand guard over the vast, empty plain. Let the thought of the strong, silent Pyramid of the Sun, resting forever in the bright sun, guide your mind to a deep, secure sleep. The Kiva and the Sky Hole, Mesa Verde's cliff dwellings. We travel now to the high, dry cliffs of Mesa Verde in Colorado, to the silent homes of the ancestral Puebloans. These people built their beautiful, quiet villages right into the stone overhangs of the cliffs, safe from the weather and the world. In the center of every village, they built a small, circular underground room called a kiva. This kiva was the true, silent temple of the community, a place for quiet meeting, prayer, and deep spiritual ceremony. The sound here is the gentle, dry wind moving through the silent, abandoned stone rooms. The history of the kiva is tied to the myth of emergence, the story of how people first came up from the deep earth into the light. The kiva is circular, like the early pit houses, and it features a small symbolic hole in the floor called the sipapu. This hole is the most sacred spot, representing the connection to the world of the ancestors and the deep earth where life began. The people would gather here, in the dark, warm quiet, to share stories, pray, and maintain their deep spiritual connection to the earth. The deepest meaning of the kiva is the idea that the spiritual journey must always start by going back to the beginning. By going down into the earth, they were symbolically returning to the ancestors and the source of all life, only to emerge again with renewed focus. The only way in and out is through a hole in the roof, which also lets in a perfect circle of light. This light hole is a beautiful, peaceful symbol of the connection between the inner dark world of the kiva and the vast, open sky. What the kiva shows us is the deep spiritual comfort of simplicity and enclosure. The small, quiet, circular space is designed for togetherness and total focus without the distraction of the outside world. This teaches us that the greatest strength is often found in the smallest, most hidden spaces, in the collective quiet of a shared belief. The thick, silent stone walls of the cliff dwelling are a perfect protective cradle for your rest. We can make a connection between the warm, dark, enclosed space of the kiva and the feeling of deep, protected rest in our own beds. Just as the ancient people felt safe resting deep within the earth's embrace, we can let the weight of the night settle around us. The small, silent circle of light coming through the roof is a gentle reminder of the hope that always exists in the dark. The final feeling of Mesa Verde is the quiet dignity of the silent cliff city. The kiva is a perfect, protective circle of rest and return. Let the thought of the silent, thick stone walls and the peaceful light coming through the sky hole guide you into a profound, secure sleep. How ancient temples became modern cathedrals. The Great Transition. Tonight we take a moment to look back at our entire journey, connecting the silent stone temples of the past to the grand, echoing cathedrals of today. The great Gothic cathedrals of Europe, with their towering massive walls, are the final descendants of the ancient ziggurats and hypostyle halls. The ancient desire to reach the heavens did not disappear. It simply changed its shape. The profound feeling of deep, echoing shared silence in a massive space remains the same, connecting all of human history. The history of this transition is one of gradual change. The first churches were built over the graves of martyrs, just as the megalithic temples were built over the bones of ancestors. The stone columns inside the cathedrals, reaching hundreds of feet high, are the grandsons of the columns in Karnak. The circular rose windows are the grandchildren of the perfect circular stupas. The great dark space inside the cathedral is the modern equivalent of the deep, quiet darkness of the hippodrome. The human need for a high, safe, and silent place of meeting has never stopped. The deepest meaning of this transition is the continuity of the human spirit. The builders of the cathedrals, using new tools and new faiths, were quietly answering the exact same spiritual needs as the builders of Göbekli Tepe. They were all looking for a solid place to stand, a connection to the light, and a shared quiet space to deal with the mystery of life and death. The massive scale of these buildings, ancient and modern, forces the mind to stop worrying about small things. What this great transition shows us is that the deepest patterns of human belief are permanent. The desire for light at the darkest time of the year, celebrated at Newgrange, is the same reason cathedrals hold their highest services on the winter holidays. The search for a quiet, perfect order, found in the geometry of the ziggurat, is found again in the perfect massive lines of the modern church. This continuity is a profound source of peace and stability. We can make a peaceful connection between the silent work of the first stone carvers and the final, beautiful product of the modern cathedral. The centuries of effort, ancient and modern, are all one long, slow, quiet prayer built in stone. The immense protected silence inside the cathedral is a perfect place for your mind to find its final rest before the last chapter. The final feeling of this transition is the realization that you are part of an unending human story. The silent, ancient stone is in every modern church. Let the vast shared silence of all these temples, separated by thousands of years, but united in peace, gently carry you to the deepest rest. A meditation on the sacred center of humanity, the universal whisper. We have reached the end of our journey, a final quiet moment to rest in the wisdom of all the temples we have visited. Tonight, we don't visit a new place. We sit in the shared universal silence of all 24 sites at once. This is the quietest spot on earth, the sacred center of humanity's search for peace. We are listening to the final whisper that echoes through all the stone circles, ziggurats, cave shrines, and pyramids. This final feeling is one of profound, total, and complete stillness. The history of this moment is the history of every single person who has ever lived and looked up at the quiet night sky. The whispers tell us that people always searched for three things: a safe place to rest, a way to connect to the big, organized universe, and a deep hope for the future. The simple, solid reality of the stone, the clay, and the rock is the only thing that has truly lasted. This shared physical permanence gives us a final, powerful anchor for rest. The deepest meaning of all these temples together is the realization that the most sacred space is the one you carry with you. Whether it was the hearth at Skara Brae, the kiva under the ground, or the final empty stupa at Borobudur, the goal was always to bring the noisy, outside world into a quiet, internal focus. All the stones and columns were just tools to help the mind find its way to this perfect, peaceful stillness. What this final meditation shows us is that your need for rest is not a weakness. It is the oldest, most sacred need of all. The ancient people built these massive monuments not just for their gods, but to ensure their community's survival and peace of mind. They taught us that only after deep rest can we see the world clearly and find the courage for the next day. The gentle, slow rhythm of these ancient stories is the perfect guidance for your mind now. We can make a final connection to the deep, heavy stone of the very first temple, Göbekli Tepe. That stone is still resting, still silent, still holding its secrets. It asks nothing of you but to simply be still. Let the immense, quiet strength of all these silent witnesses to history cover you now like a heavy, protective blanket. The final feeling of our entire journey is a quiet, profound certainty. All the temples of the world are now resting. They are no longer places of ritual, but monuments to peace. You have heard the whispers, you have felt the stillness, and now it is your turn to join them in the great, silent rest. The whispers are fading now. Every column, every pyramid, every silent stone is settling into its deep, unmoving rest. The questions of history have been answered by the simple, profound quiet of the stone. You have journeyed through thousands of years, and now you are safely home. May the vast, shared silence of the ancients bring you a profound and total peace. As you drift now, feel the deep, steady rhythm of the earth beneath you. Rest easy, knowing that the greatest history is still being written in the quiet stillness of your own mind. Sleep well, and we will wait right here for your return. Good night.